Hi everyone, in this recording I'll introduce some of the basics of JavaScript. So JavaScript is a language that's used within the web, and D3 is a specific visualization library that's written in JavaScript. So in order to be fluent in D3, it's very helpful to understand at least some of the basics of JavaScript. So how do I think about learning a programming language? There are two main parts of it. First, you need to understand what the different data structures are. And second, we need to understand how we manipulate those data structures using different kinds of control flow patterns. So what are the most basic types of data structures? First, there are arrays. So an array is just, you can have lists of numbers, you can have lists of strings. You declare them using let, and you put these brackets around them. So it's kind of like in R, you would use C, parenthesis, and then a list of whatever you want in your vector. We can actually play around with these live. So if you do Command Option J, it opens the console. I can print this in. Notice it's 0 indexed. So 0 refers to the first element. It's not 1 indexed like R. I can get different elements. I can look at the whole thing. All right, so that is an array. The second kind of main data structure is called an object. So an object you declare using these more curly brackets, and every attribute is named. So here, right, I declare Everest. This is the location of Mount Everest and its height in meters. Right? So I declare this object. Now I can refer to it in my console. I can start looking up specific attributes. Look up latitude, maybe. And it gives me, I can access those data again. Okay, those are the two most basic data structures. It's often useful to compose these data structures with one another. So you can imagine having a list of mountains, and what would be in the list of mountains, each element is an object corresponding to one mountain. I should be more precise and say it's not a list of mountains, it's an array. Right? So each element doesn't have a name, so I'm going to be putting them in these square brackets, but then each element of it is itself an object. And you can go vice versa, right? You can have an object where each element is an array. So this would be like the maximum temperature over 4 days. So that's how you declare the basic data structures. You can start manipulating them using this sort of control patterns. So first of all, you can concatenate two objects. If you have, or concatenate two arrays by using this .concat command. So here I put them together. Now you have a new array. I could even define, let z equals this, and now I have z being the concatenated array. You can concatenate the elements within objects by using this ... notation. So let me copy in both of these. And what you see here is going to be the merged object. So it has all the attributes from before, but all in one object. Okay. So that's how you combine them. You can add to them. For an array, you can add using push. So this is going to add an element to the very end. So now it goes all the way to 5. And you can add to objects by creating a new name and then saying what it should be equal to. Okay. So we're in week 4 of the lecture. Now it contains this extra attribute. Okay, so that's some basic manipulation. How might we manipulate them a little bit more programmatically? All the kinds of control flow that you're familiar with from R have some sort of analog in JavaScript. So if you want to do a for loop, you use this sort of syntax. There are actually several kinds of syntax, but I find this is the easiest to remember. You say, I'm going to start at index 0. I'm going to keep on going until I reach the end of whatever my array is. Each time I'm incrementing by 1, so I have I++. Right? And now, so what have I done here? I'm saying, I'm just checking what the height is. I've stored it in a new variable, and I'm doing an if statement. So just like in R, there are if statements in JavaScript, and I'm checking whether it's really high, and I'm going to print something differently. So console.log is a kind of print statement. So just copy this in. Oh, I think I'm missing. Oh, and I didn't copy it. Okay. So it's just looping over and then printing each one. Okay, so yeah, and you can also loop over objects. The way you loop over objects is not by indexing 1, 2, 3, 4. You go over the properties. So you can say the properties in that object. Now you can print those out. Just like this. Okay, so those are the properties and its value. Okay. So for loops can be a little bit syntactically verbose. A very concise way that you'll often see in JavaScript code is this map command. So what it does is it will apply a little function to every element in that array. So here it's taking every element and it's squaring it. So remember what x looks like. So this is x. If I do this map, it's squaring each element. Right, so this is way more concise than defining a new variable, doing a for loop, and storing it in the new variable. Okay, so finally, everything so far has been just pure JavaScript. D3 has a lot of useful kind of array and data structure manipulation functions. So what this does, it creates an array from 0 to 24. What this will do, it will create a random number generator. So if I do kind of this map, it's going to go from 1 to 24. Each time it's going to generate a different random, or from 0 to 24, and it's going to generate a random normal variable for each one. Right? So I'm not able to run these in the console because I haven't loaded D3 in this environment yet. So actually what you would do to run this sort of code, you would put it in its own JavaScript file. And this is all linked in the code example link in the page. Right? So I copied this exact same code into this JavaScript file. I have this HTML, which calls this JavaScript file. So it's going to run anything that I put in that JavaScript file. And now let's look at what happens when I open this HTML page. So I think it's this page here. Right, and it's doing, this is the 0 to 24. It just created the indices. It's generating random normal variables. I actually added in a couple commands for finding the minimum and maximum here. Okay. So that's how you would run some basic D3 code in a separate JavaScript file.